up to 5 times on our digital channels. And guess what? You could be a lucky 100,000 Naira winner each month. But wait, there's more. Deposit and maintain 50,000 Naira each month for 4 months. Or deposit 200,000 Naira for 4 months. And you could stand a chance to win a whooping 1 million Naira in the grand finale.
Don't miss your chance to win big with First Bank. This promo runs till February 23rd, 2024 and is open to new and existing account holders. Terms and conditions apply. Keep transacting. Keep winning. You first. First Bank.
From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Anne Nwawodo.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, state police option now on the table as the federal government and state governors move to tackle the prevailing insecurity in the country, sets up committee to iron out the modalities for implementation. Inspector General of Police says he is confident the new Special Intervention Squad will tackle insecurity challenges in the country once it is launched in all parts of the country. And Interpol arrests the Director of Process and Industrial Development, APC Edo Limited, James Nolan, in Italy after jumping bail in 2022 while undergoing trial in the $9.6 billion PNID scandal in Nigeria.
And on business news tonight, Central Bank of Nigeria limits dollar repatriation of oil firms by 50% to support the Naira.
On sports news tonight, Super Eagles run at the 2023 AFCON produces results as the team is now ranked number 3 in Africa and 28 in the world, their best ranking in 16 years.
And from Abuja, a bill to establish the Northwest Development Commission passes second reading in the Senate.
And in international news from London, 1 person has died and 21 people have been wounded in a shooting in Missouri at the end of the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl victory.
The state police is on the front burner, and this time the issue is already receiving attention at the highest government quarters. It is coming against the backdrop of growing concerns over the insecurity in the country. In the light of that, the president and state governors have now agreed to consider the possibility of establishing state police in a bid to address this ugly situation. And this followed an emergency meeting convened by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to consider the rising cost of food and the insecurity challenges across Nigeria. Our State House correspondent Larry Lasisi reports.
President Bola Tinubu arriving at the council chamber for this emergency meeting. Present are the vice president, some ministers, the national security advisor, and state governors. Top on the agenda is the issue of security and the rising cost of food across the country. Over an hour later, the Minister of Information and some governors emerged from the meeting to brief State House correspondents on the resolutions reached. The minister outlines decisions taken to ensure more investment in agriculture and address the hoarding of commodities.
At this point that the nation requires food to be brought out to the people so that we can control prices and put food on the table of most Nigerians. Other commodity traders are busy hoarding these commodities so that Nigerians will suffer or they will make more money as a result. So the governors and Mr. President have taken this decision that security agencies will cooperate or collaborate with the state governors to ensure that this ends. A decision has also been taken that in the interest of our country, there will be no need for food importation at this point. What we are seeing now is just a temporary difficulty that will soon go away. Therefore, the solution to it is by continuous investment in agriculture so that food can be made available to all Nigerians.
The meeting also agreed that there has been an improvement in the security situation in the country. However, they also agree more needs to be done.
We have seen significant improvement. In Borno, for example, areas where farmers have not been able to cultivate as a result of security, those farmers have now returned to their farms. It is also the same thing in Jigawa and many parts of the country. Mr. President and the state governors have also discussed the possibility of improving the numeric strength of forest rangers, to train them so that they can keep our forest and our borders very safe. Now, there is also a discussion around the issue of state police. The federal government and the state governments are mulling the possibility of setting up state police.
The president and governors also agreed to address the issue of youth unemployment in the country.
Mr. President has also called on the state governors to join hands with the federal government to provide more for our people, especially the teeming youth population. There is going to be a joint program between the state governments and the federal government to ensure that our teeming youth population is gainfully employed, so that we reduce to the barest minimum the issue of unemployment in the country.
The meeting is expected to hold more frequently to resolve the issues as well as ensure improved coordination of responses to national interventions. From the Presidential Villa, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
This latest move by the government is already receiving support of Nigerians, and the former governor of Kano State, Ibrahim Shekarau, says that one of the key important areas of security situation in the country is to boost the manpower of the police force. Mr. Shekarau is calling for a review of the recruitment process into the force, adding that community policing is an important factor to consider. He was speaking on our political program, Politics Today.
There must be a very serious drive in mass recruitment of the Nigerian police. What we have today, take Egypt, for example. Egypt is about 80 million people, but they have up to 4 million policemen. Nigeria, we have over 200 million people. We don't have up to 1 million policemen. It's just about 400, 450, or even 350,000. So the recruitment, Buhari promised to recruit 10,000 every year. But my committee in the Senate, Shehu, was in charge of pension. And from the police pension records, on the average, every year, 5,000 policemen leave the service, either by death, by retirement, by whatever means, on the average 5,000. So if you are recruiting 10,000 a year, you are technically recruiting only 5,000. So I made a submission. I have the documents. I gave it to Professor Ibrahim Gambari, to the government, that what we need, that there be a proper plan of about 50, 60,000 recruitment drive, non-stop, continuous training. The problem has been the recruitment has not been steady. And there is no way with 350 policemen you can police the whole of Nigerian territory. It's not practicable. It can't work. The number is inadequate. The equipping is inadequate, the funding is inadequate, the training is inadequate, the welfare is inadequate. All of this have to be put together to the table to address this insecurity. Then you complement it with this community policing. Come and see how it is working. We're not talking of something abstract. I challenge anyone to come to Kano, go to the Hizbah board, find out the records, ask anybody on the street. The community policing is working. Of course, not a perfect one, but at least the issue of recruitment, I agree, is so inadequate. We need to have about 10, 20-year long-term plan of recruitment.
Meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Kayode Egbetokun, is confident that the banditry will cease once the newly launched Special Intervention Squad takes off in all the 36 states of the Federation. Mr. Egbetokun made this assertion during a two-day working visit to Bauchi State. He emphasized his commitment to creating a professional and competent police force to restore Nigerian police to its former glory. Our correspondent Hajara Aliyu reports.
The Inspector General of Police is on his first official visit to Bauchi State. He begins with a courtesy call to Governor Bala Mohammed. Expectedly, ensuring the security of citizens and the nation took center stage. The IGP elaborates on his plans for enhanced policing across the country, particularly through the implementation of the Special Intervention Squad.
By the time the SIS fully takes off, the days of the bandits and other criminals terrorizing our communities are numbered. Bauchi State, though a peaceful state, but we don't want the peace of Bauchi to be broken in any way. Therefore, Bauchi State has been selected as one of the pilot states.
Governor Mohammed points out the importance of embracing modern methods, including the use of technology in policing.
We will implore the presidency to help you with the resources to deploy technology to complement the deficit you have in human capital to police us, to police the country. Definitely, I'm a willing partner, a willing tool for you.
From that visit, the IGP proceeds to the Bauchi Police Headquarters for an interactive session with officers and men of the Bauchi Command.
Sir, there is the need to make use of drones for geolocation of criminal hideouts and to upgrade our security architecture and operational assaults.
Addressing the officers, the IGP shares his vision for the force.
We will do everything possible to restore the past glory of the police. But anywhere you go to, people will see you and they will respect you. They will see you and they will admire you. That's the kind of police we want.
He concludes his trip with the commissioning of various police projects in the state. Hajara Aliyu, Channels Television News.
A former Inspector General of Police and Chairman of the Police Service Commission, Mr. Solomon Arase, has cautioned those pushing for Nigerians to start bearing firearms as a means of self-defense in the face of growing insecurity nationwide to reconsider that proposal. According to Mr. Arase, who was a guest on our program Inside Sources, the idea, if allowed, is nothing but the recipe for anarchy.
Any man who has spent some time in the system and does not have any insight about where he's going to live when he retires becomes agitated.
Yes.
Okay. And when that agitation starts, it leads to corruption. He wants to help himself because he's now feeling
left.
Yes. So what will it cost? The police management to start building two-bedroom apartments, especially for the inspectors and rank and file. Those are the ones that I call the street managers, because those guys are the ones who are actually there
on the ground.
On the ground, the rain come, sunshine. Even when it comes to sometimes shielding their bloods and others, they are there. They are the ones you meet at the counter. So why can't we take care of those small things for them? Then when you do that one, you now say, okay, we created the safer highways when I was the IG.
Yeah.
We dismantled the roadblocks to say that you don't keep men for long hours on the road. you know, and then along the line, they suffer some temporary insanity and they go and shoot somebody and say, accidental discharge. Now, small and light weapons, you know, they are all over the place.
Yeah.
That is why we have all these issues we're having now. The guns that are out there, how are you going to mop them up? Then you are not saying we should now come again and open a shop where somebody can walk into and pick it up like a toy and pay money for it. You know, we're asking for a very big problem. We should not be. I know it could be frustrating. You know, going through what we are going through now. There's palpable fear.
Yeah.
Everybody is scared. You know, this and that. But having firearms, is it a panacea to that issue?
Well, people think they can defend themselves.
Sometimes it could be very dangerous. When somebody knows you have firearms, he will want to hurt you so that you will not be able to use that firearm. Don't you know that? Yes. So it's something that we have to be very careful about. You know, and mental health. We have to be very careful. You know, not all of us that you see on the road. You know, sometimes when you see some people walking around the road, they'll be smiling and walking around. You know, hunger and all these things can cause you a lot of discomfort. And you just see when they see you driving your car, they will say, Laolu is part of the elites who have made me what I am. So we should discourage it.
Thank you.
For the full interview, please watch Inside Sources at 11 a.m. tomorrow, Friday, February the 16th. In part two, after the break, federal government discontinues the treason trial of the former presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, Omoyele Sowore, and his co-defendants, Olawale Bakare. Please stay with us.
Show off your best skin this Harmattan with Nivea Nourishing Cocoa Body Lotion. Now with 5-in-1 Complete Care. The deeply nourishing formula prevents your skin from drying out. With precious cocoa butter and deep moisture for smooth and healthy looking skin. Love your skin this Harmattan with Nivea Nourishing Cocoa 5-in-1 Complete Care.
Once it is launched in all parts of the country. Interpol arrests the Director of Process and Industrial Development PNID Limited, James Nolan, in Italy after jumping bail in 2022 while undergoing trial in a $9.6 billion PNID scandal. Director of Process and Industrial Development PNID Limited, Mr. James Nolan, in Italy. Mr. Nolan, who is an Irish national, is said to have jumped bail in 2022 in the ongoing $9.6 billion PNID scandal in Nigeria. He has, however, been arrested by the Interpol. He was on a visit to his wife, an Italian, on January the 27th this year. Following his arraignment and plea of not guilty to the charges, a federal high court in Abuja on November the 7th, 2019, initially granted him bail in the sum of 500 million naira. However, due to his inability to meet the bail conditions, the bail amount was later reduced to 100 million. Meanwhile, after perfecting his bail conditions, he failed to appear in court for trial since 2022. Nolan, the second defendant, alongside Trinity Biotech Nigeria Limited, the first defendant, is being prosecuted for allegations bordering on money laundering offences. For legal matters, the federal government has discontinued the trial of the former presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, AAC, Omoyele Sowore, and his co-defendant, Olawale Bakare, also known as Mandate. The decision to discontinue the trial was communicated to the Federal High Court, Abuja, via notice of discontinuance dated February the 14th by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi. He cited constitutional provisions that empowers him to discontinue the case. Both accused were arraigned before the Federal High Court, Abuja, in 2019, following the protest rally he staged in Abuja tagged Revolution Now. Justice Emeka Nwite of the Federal High Court, Abuja, had earlier threatened to strike out the treason charge filed against him if the Nigerian government was not ready to go on with the case 5 years after. The judge handed down the warning on Wednesday at the resumed hearing of the case. The Office of Abia State Governor on Homeland Security, in partnership with the National Drugs Law Enforcement Agency NDLEA Abia State Command, have carried out raids on notorious hard drug hotspots in Umuahia, the state capital. During the raid, a female narcotics distribution kingpin identified as Adao Binweke was apprehended. Briefing journalists on the outcome of the raids, the Deputy Governor of the state, Okechukwu Emetu, notes that the state government is determined to rid the state of all forms of criminal activities.
Right from the inception of this very government, we already promised Abia, the people of Abia, concerning our plans to make sure that we flush out all guys of criminality in the state. Law Panther happens to be one of the problems we had as a state, where a whole lot of kidnapping activities were being perpetrated, and where loved ones lost their family members, and we've been able to, control that very aspect. And coming down to drugs, it happens to be the bedrock of all criminal activities that can be done by any group of people. Abia isn't a safe haven for any criminal. All drug kingpins. The directives from the governor of Abia State is very clear. Stay away from Abia State. We don't need you. You are not part of the development of the state. We need peace-loving people, those that want to develop the state. Drugs can't develop Abia State. We want our youth to be safe and very useful to the government of Abia State.
Let's head over to Abuja studios now, where Maokwe Yusuf is standing by to give us more on the news at 10. Hello, Maokwe.
Hello, Anne. Well, we're off to the National Assembly, where a bill to establish the Northwest Development Commission has passed second reading in the Senate. The bill is sponsored by the Deputy President of the Senate, Senator Barao Jibrin, and co-sponsored by senators from the Northwest region. Meanwhile, the Senate has passed a sum of 5.079 trillion naira as the 2024 budget of the Nigeria Customs Service. Our National Assembly correspondent Gloria Umezioke reports.
Banki community in Bama local government area of Borno State borders Amcheda in Mora province in the far north state of Cameroon, and it's famous for international trade between Nigeria and Cameroon. Despite resettling inhabitants to the town 2 years ago, the road leading to Banki remains dilapidated, making it easy target for Boko Haram terrorists. Governor Babagana Zulum is in the...
Well, apologies for the mix-up on that particular report. We certainly will be bringing it to you much later in the bulletin. Meanwhile, it appears the call for the adoption of parliamentary system of government is gaining more support. This time, Kano businessman Alhaji Aminu Dantata has thrown his weight behind the proposition as a solution to the challenges facing the nation. He made his position known when he received a team led by the minority leader of the House of Representatives as his residence in Kano. A group of 60 federal lawmakers had proposed an amendment to the 1999 Constitution for the establishment of a parliamentary system of government. Our correspondent Sadiq Ilyasu reports.
Federal lawmakers have begun mobilizing for support in their bid to see Nigeria move from a presidential system of government to a parliamentary system. They are meeting with Kano-based businessman Alhaji Amin Dantata to seek his support.
The videos, which like you all know, the first one is moving the local government into parliamentary system, the state parliamentary system, and of course, changing the president to prime minister in the parliamentary system that was proposed.
Alhaji Dantata, who rarely speaks on political issues in the country, shares his thoughts on the proposal by the lawmakers.
Obviously, parliamentary system is better for this country. In simple words, that it is much cheaper and less cumbersome. Presidential system is very costly. and they are very, very difficult to manage. So I'm praying Allah should give you the wisdom, should guide you to achieve this marvelous job you have taken to achieve for this country.
The minority leader of the House, who led the team, is confident that the parliamentary system of government would bring an end to Nigeria's challenges.
We cannot be doing the same thing and expect a different result. The way things are going, everybody is complaining. Nigerians are worried that the cost of governance is skyrocketing every other day, and there is no magic that the president or members of his team can work to cut down drastically this cost. Even where we say we are forgoing all our allowances, you will find out that it's just a drop in the ocean. And so we need to do something drastic because our country is dovetailing. We sat down, thought through, and concluded that one of the several solutions to our problem should be to take a system of government that is manageable to our system. Considering our population, we need so much fund, and then we need to conserve these funds.
The lawmakers will consider this endorsement as a major boost in their effort to effect a constitutional change in the country. Sadiq Ilyasu, Channels Television News.
Well, staying with parliamentary matters now, where a bill to establish the Northwest Development Commission has passed second reading in the Senate. Our correspondent Gloria Omiezuke reports.
The 2024 budget of the Nigeria Customs Service formed part of activities for the Senate during the last plenary session of the week.
The approved revenue target.
The chairman of the Senate Committee on Customs, Excise and Tariffs, Senator Issa Jibrin, presented the committee's report on the 2024 budget of the Customs Service. The highlight of the report is the approval of 5.79 trillion naira as the budget of the service.
The capital cost estimates makes provision for the completion of the Nigeria Customs Service new corporate headquarters. Then the service anti-smuggling campaign, using all required operational guides as provided within the Conference of Customs Laws, will be intensified.
The Senate also approved 706.4 billion naira as the capital expenditure for the service for the 2024 financial year. The lawmakers also considered a bill for an act to establish the Northwest Development Commission. The deputy president of the Senate led the debate for the consideration of the bill.
I thereby urge my colleagues to support this bill for the second reading. When you develop Northwest, you are developing the entire country.
The bill enjoys wide support from some lawmakers who argued in its favor before a disenchanted tone is heard.
We need to establish this commission in order to take care of the development in the zone.
During the 9th Senate, a motion and bill was presented for Southeast Development Commission, and it was totally thrown out. I want my colleagues to be very, very fair when we deal with regional development.
You have Southeast Development Commission first reading, bill that has been brought from the House of Reps for concurrence. So it has been brought from the House of Reps for concurrence. Once we finish with the bill here, it will go to the President for its assent. So your bill has even gone far, very, very far, and you don't know.
Similarly, a bill for an act to establish the National Youth Service Corps Trust Fund to provide sustainable source of funds for the National Youth Service Corps also passed second reading.
Distinguished colleagues, the establishment of NYC Trust Fund, we have a direct answer to the rhetorical question. After NYC, what next?
Meanwhile, there's been more confirmations before the Senate adjourned the plenary for the day. The Senate has confirmed the appointment of Mr. Adama Oladapo as the new executive director of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Gas Infrastructure Fund Board. From the National Assembly, Gloria Omiezuke, Channels Television News.
To party politics now, ahead of the September 2024 governorship election in Edo State, the All Progressives Congress has inaugurated a governorship primary election committee to ensure the election of the best out of the 12 candidates vying for the ticket of the party. The party also inaugurated a governorship primary election appeals committee charged with the mandate to allow dissatisfied aspirants ventilate their grievances. After the inauguration, chairman of the committee and governor of Imo State, Mr. Hope Uzodimma, pledged to ensure that the best candidate emerges from the process.
On behalf of myself and members of these committees, we want to thank you and thank indeed the National Working Committee for this show of confidence, and pray that we will work hard to justify this confidence reposed on us. Our party is a very fantastic brand. Our party is a very popular party. Our party is a good product. The host and members of our committee to work in harmony with the local leadership of the party in Edo State to also bring up a product that will look like our party and that will be easily sellable to the electorate. To the glory of God, we will do our best. I want to thank you, thank members of our party, and urge you to also pray for us. So the God, mighty God, will give us the wherewithal to carry out this assignment.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria's headline inflation surges further in January, hits record high of 29.9% from 28.92% in December. That's some business news. To join us again.
Breaking news.
Again with the latest Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Developing stories. And the conversations that matter.
We see an increase because of the economic pressure on them. The people are paying more for crossing borders irregularly.
Get a glimpse of the world around you on The World Today. Weekdays at this time.
Welcome back to the news at 10. The candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 presidential election, Mr. Peter Obi, says the party will engage the services of an auditing firm to audit the finances of the party following allegations of financial impropriety against members of the party's National Working Committee. Mr. Obi stated this when he addressed a press conference to give an account of the funds received by the campaign council and how the monies were spent. After that news conference, Mr. Obi visited a health facility in the nation's capital to mark the Week of the Sick and observed that the state of primary health care in the country is unacceptable.
About a year after the presidential elections of 2023, Mr. Peter Obi and his team are giving an account of how campaign funds were expended.
Some of it are part of what I've been...
While putting the record straight, he promises that an audit of the party will be independently conducted.
We're actually going to go to the various people who supported us in diaspora to say thank you and tell them what was realized. And we also are going to put an information out there that whoever knows where funds are supposed to have been remitted to help us trace and get that. But know that people are claiming we received about $150 million. And I said here, we haven't seen 1%. And I stand for anybody to dispute or prove that.
After the press conference, Mr. Obi proceeds to a primary healthcare facility at Tunga Madaki village, close to the Abuja airport. The presidential candidate is marking the week of the sick by visiting health institutions in the country. After inspecting the facility, he gives an assessment of the nation's healthcare delivery.
We have over 30,000 primary health care centers scattered all over the country with less than just about a quarter functional. This is one of the functional ones, and you could see the state it is. So imagine what the other 75 is doing. And that is what we need to tackle. We need to put more money. We are budgeting money for luxuries while abandoning this place. For example, the entire primary health care budget for the country, capital budget, is about 59 billion. When we are budgeting over 70 billion to just buy cars and build car park for our legislators.
The primary healthcare center serves over 30 villages in the area and has only one nurse. There is no doctor or pharmacist in the facility. Billy Omoyeni, Channels Television News.
And that's all from our studios in Abuja. It's back now to you, Anne.
Thank you very much, Malkwe. The President has approved the appointment and reappointment of board chairpersons and chief executive officers under the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare. Among the affected 8 agencies and organizations are the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, which now has Dr. Mansour Kabir as its board chairman and Professor Mojisola Adeyeye as the chief executive officer, formerly designated as Director General of NAFDAC. Another is the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, with Dr. Olajide Idris as its new Chief Executive Officer to assume office on February the 19th, replacing Dr. Ifedayo Adetifa. In a statement, the President's Special Advisor on Media and Publicity, Ajurin Gilale, says that President Bola Tinubu made the changes to bring world-class standards to the nation's public health sector. The last has certainly not been heard about the Integrated Payroll and Personal Information Systems, or IPPIS, which the federal government uses for the payment of its workers. The Vice-Chancellor of the University of Maiduguri, Professor Aliyu Shugaba, says that a number of people not affiliated with the university in any way have had their names imputed in the system, while legitimate lecturers are still being owed salaries. According to him, universities are still being paid through the IPPIS platform, despite a federal government's directive to the contrary. He was speaking exclusively on Channels Television's Hard Copy.
People who have come for verification, the university doesn't even know about them. And while we were questioning them, where were you? The person simply said he was in Lagos. What are you doing in Lagos? Yet your name is on the payroll of the university. The university didn't know about this. And there are a number of them. And that is, so at last the person simply said that he was one of the candidates of the former Accountant General or so. And that was a very serious thing. You see this kind of things, you won't even know what is happening.
Implying that people were just put on the payroll of the university without the university's knowledge.
Of course, yes. That was what happened. And we got to know about that from people who came for verification. And when they came for verification, they were never known in the university. The university doesn't even know about them. Yet they have been drawing salaries.
So instead of
asked them, have you?
Yeah. So instead of the IPPIS to now become something to verify the actual number of lecturers and pay them correctly, it now became a system where people's names were just infused into the system, and then those people were getting salaries for nothing.
That is what we got to know recently in the course of the verification exercise that was ordered by the government.
For more on this interview, please watch Hard Copy tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. only on Channels Television. There is currently unease in Yandoto town in Safi local government area of Zamfara State following the alleged killing of one Magaji Lawal, who's a political associate of Senator Kabir Marafa, allegedly by members of the recently inaugurated Community Protection Guards, codenamed Askarawa. The incident is said to have occurred after Mr. Lawal was invited by the security outfit to its office in Safi town, which is the headquarters of the local government area, last Saturday, to respond to allegations of his involvement in banditry-related activities.
The death of Magaji Lawal, a prominent person in Yandoto town, has sparked tension and an uneasy calm among the residents of the community. Mr. Lawal, a political associate of Senator Kabir Marafa, was allegedly killed by operatives of the Zamfara State Community Protection Guard, also known as Askarawa, after he was invited to their office in Shafe local government area of the state alongside some other persons. Shekina Lawal, a relative of the late Magaji Lawal, wants a thorough investigation.
While I was sitting inside the compound, they called to tell me that some persons came on a motorcycle and picked him up and went with him. The next day, my younger brother, who is deaf, gave the sign that indicated that my uncle died.
One of those invited alongside Magaji, Yahaya Galadima, attempts a narration of what happened while in the detention of the Askarawa.
The morning of the next day, Sunday, they brought me out and showed me a list of over 30 persons which was said to have been brought to them by one Aminu Ibrahim from our town, alleged that each person had his offense. I told them to go to my house and search if they found any gun or ammunition. Then I was ready to face the consequences. I asked them to take me back home to my parents and told them what I had done.
After the funeral of late Lawal, Senator Kabir Marafa tells journalists that his ally was tortured alongside two other people to whom the invitation was extended.
There were marks on his body indicating or indicative of the fact that like he was being tortured. But like I said, I don't work with rumors. So that was why I felt there was a need for an autopsy to determine what actually happened in that detention.
Meanwhile, the Zamfara state government has directed the security agencies to conduct a comprehensive investigation into the incident that resulted in the death of Magaji Lawal. According to a statement by the Secretary to the State Government, Abubakar Nakoda, the incident occurred as a result of a fracas between two factions of the local vigilante groups in the area. However, the state government is committed to ensuring that anyone found culpable in the act is sanctioned appropriately.
Let's delve into the world of business now. Will Ebong is standing by.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial star 894 hash now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Anne, and welcome to Business News. Now we begin with Nigeria's inflation rate, which has soared in January, hitting a record high of 29.9% on surge in food prices and weakening naira. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, the consumer price index rose by 0.98% to 29.9% in January from 28.92% recorded in December last year, while core inflation rose to 23.59%. The NBS report shows food inflation jumped to 35.41% in January from 33.93% recorded in December. The NBS attributes the rise in food inflation to increases in prices of potatoes, yams, and other tubers, bread and cereals, fish meat, tobacco, and vegetable. Some analysts believe that this higher than expected inflation rate may add pressure on the Central Bank's Monetary Policy Committee to sharply raise interest rates at its February 26 to 27 meeting, its first in 7 months. Now, in a bid to regulate the flow of foreign exchange, the central bank has announced a restriction on the ability of international oil companies, IOCs, to fully repatriate 100% of their foreign exchange earnings from Nigeria. Under this significant policy change, which takes effect immediately, only 50% of proceeds from IOCs can be repatriated immediately, with the remaining 50% subject to a 90-day delay. The decision, according to the CBN, aims to address concerns about the impact of cash pooling on the domestic foreign exchange market. And by implementing these measures, the CBN seeks to strike a balance between facilitating IOC's access to their export proceeds and ensuring adequate liquidity within Nigeria's forex market. And following the increase in customs duty rates by 2.6% by the central bank from 1,444 naira 56 kobo to $1 to 1,481 naira 48 kobo, the House of Representatives is proposing what it believes should be a solution for indiscriminate exchange rate adjustment for customs and excise duties. The House reached a resolution that the Central Bank of Nigeria should maintain the system exchange rates for custom duties and excise duty purposes below 1,000 naira to $1, preferably 951 naira 94 kobo to $1. This, they say, is to encourage patronage in Nigerian ports, prevent galloping inflation, and boost economic stability. The House believes that there is a need to rescue the Nigerian economy from imminent collapse and restore investor confidence in the system. Now, still on the central bank and the forex markets, it has announced directing all authorized dealer banks to stop the payment of personal travel allowance, PTA, and business travel allowance, BTA, in cash. According to the CBN, these allowances must now be processed through electronic channels, including debit or credit cards. This directive, signed by the Director of Trade and Exchange Department of the CBN, Dr. Hassan Mahmood, aims to bolster transparency and stability in the foreign exchange market while curbing forex malpractices. Now, the domestic equities market sustained bullish sentiments in today's trading session despite the hot inflation report. John Mekwa tells us more.
Hello, Will. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. Another positive trade today as we see the all-share index gain 0.58%. And now we have hit 104,100 for the all-share index. And the market cap still at 56, but very close to 57 trillion naira. Hopefully, we'll do that tomorrow. The market mover today is Boa Cement. It opened at 150 naira and closed at 158 naira. That's 5.87%. It added to the share price at the close of trade. Market mover today. And looking at the sectors, of course, that is expected to reflect. And indeed, it does. Figures written down today. Profit taking still on that, 1.32%. Consumer goods marginally up 0.22%, thanks to Boa Foods. They moved the market yesterday, but today it's Boa Cement. Honeywell Flour also contributed to that. Oil and gas couldn't manage to get a lot of movement today, but it's still in the green, unchanged as it may be. So it's a second positive trading day for the week, and we hope this trend continues. So it's the bull.
Thank you, Ini. And now let's keep our fingers crossed for that. But let's check in now on other major equities around the world and see how they perform today. And that's it on Business News. It's back to Anne for the rest of the news at 10.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Will. Former U.S. President Donald Trump is set to start his first ever criminal trial next month, March the 25th. Mr. Trump will be defending himself against allegations of conducting a hush money cover-up. The 77-year-old appeared in court today in New York, seeking to have the trial he describes as a disgrace dismissed or delayed. Here's Simon Pise with more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. One person has died and 21 people have been injured in a shooting in Missouri at the end of the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl victory parade. Officials said they treated 8 victims who were in immediately life-threatening condition and 7 others who had suffered injuries that could prove life-threatening. 9 children were among the wounded. All are expected to recover. Police said they have arrested 3 suspects in connection to the shooting. At least 21 people were struck by gunfire, one of whom is dead, and 3 individuals were arrested.
It was just a reaction. He was running against the wrong way, and there was another gentleman saying, just screaming out of the top of his lungs, catch this guy, tackle him. And I heard him, and I really wasn't sure until he came running, and I had a perfect angle to do what I did, and I did what I did. I took him down.
I'm angry at what happened today. The people who came to this celebration should expect a safe environment. We had over 800 law enforcement officers, Kansas City and other agencies, at the location to keep everyone safe. Because of bad actors, which were very few, this tragedy occurred.
The Israeli military says it is carrying out a precise and limited mission in Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis. The Israel Defense Forces says it has credible intelligence, including from released hostages, that Hamas held hostages at the hospital in southern Gaza. It adds that it has apprehended a number of suspects after earlier claiming that terrorists appear to have been operating from within the hospital too. Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry says Israel forced people to leave, as well as using a bulldozer to demolish a wall and turn the hospital into a barracks. At least 4 people have been killed in an air attack on the Russian city of Belgorod. That's according to Russian media. Another 10 people are said to have been wounded in the strike not far from the Ukrainian border. Videos circulating on social media showed several ambulances parked outside a heavily damaged shopping centre with shattered windows. France says it will host a conference in Paris in April to raise aid for war-torn Sudan. Stéphane Séjourne said the dramatic humanitarian situation there should not be forgotten. Thousands of people have been killed since the war broke out last year between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The UN says more than 6 million people are displaced and more than half of the population require assistance. The first US lunar mission in half a century has blasted off from Florida.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
The SpaceX rocket is carrying a landing vehicle the size of a telephone box. It's due to travel to the lunar South Pole. If everything goes to plan, it should land in 9 days' time. Prince Harry has attempted sit skiing whilst visiting the training camp for next year's Invictus Games in Canada. The Duke, here enjoying the slopes, and his wife Meghan visited the training camp for the 2025 Invictus Games in Whistler, British Columbia. The Duke founded the Games in 2014 for injured and sick military personnel. And an undercover policeman in a teddy bear costume has shown up at a house of an alleged drug dealer bearing a fake gift as part of an operation on Valentine's Day in Lima in Peru. Footage supplied by the National Police Agency shows one woman leaving the house before she is pinned down by police. Police found a bag containing what was alleged to be drugs under a mattress inside. 2 women were arrested at the end of the raid. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Many thanks indeed, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. The Super Eagles of Nigeria have climbed 14 places in the latest FIFA World Rankings released by the world's football governing body FIFA earlier today. This is the best ranking since February 2008, when the Super Eagles of Nigeria were ranked 19th in the world. 2023 AFCON silver medalists are now ranked in 28th position in the world and 3rd in Africa. Morocco retained the #1 spot in Africa, closely trailed by Senegal. Egypt and new African champions Côte d'Ivoire completes the top 5. Meanwhile, there were no chances in the top 10 latest ranking. Argentina remains the best playing nation in the world, followed by France, England, Belgium, Brazil, the Netherlands, Portugal, Spain, Italy, and Croatia all maintain their previous rankings for last month. And the Nigeria Football Federation has called up 21 players, among them Captain Rasheedat Ajibade, goalkeeper Chiamaka Nnadozie, and 5-time African Player of the Year Asisat Oshoala for next week's 2024 Women's Olympic Football qualifying fixture against the indomitable Lionesses of Cameroon. This fixture is the 3rd round of the African qualifying series before the continent's flag bearers to the 2024 Olympics are known ahead of the games in 5 months' time. Nigeria and Cameroon will battle it out in the first leg of the fixture in Douala on February 23rd, while the return leg will take place in Abuja on February 26th. And some club football news now. Crystal Palace manager Roy Hodgson is in a stable condition in hospital after he was taken ill at a training session earlier today. The club cancelled their under pressure managers pre-match press conference scheduled for lunchtime. The 76-year-old former England boss was due to preview Monday's Premier League game away at Everton. And there you go. That's Sports News Tonight. I am Kelly Egiga. It's back to Anne for the rest of the news.
Thank you, Kelly. And the main news again. The federal and state governments today moved to tackle the prevailing insecurity in the country by exploring the state police option and have set up a committee to iron out the modalities for implementation of the security measure. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, says that he is confident that the new Special Intervention Squad will tackle security challenges in the country once it is launched in all parts of the Federation. Interpol has arrested the Director of Process and Industrial Development, or P&ID Limited, James Nolan.
Africa's stories.